Am I audible? Can you hear me, see me clearly?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Great. So let's begin today's session. Keep the back and neck straight. Sit comfortably on your mat. Very gently close your eyes. Just start observing your breath. Natural flow of the breathing as you inhale and as you exhale. When you feel stable and comfortable in your posture, begin to deepen your breathing. Prepare your mind for Om chanting. We'll chant Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. Inhale deeply for Om. 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 Shanti. 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 Just relax. Join the palms together and rub the palms together. Place them on your eyes. Very slowly while blinking and looking at the palms. Start coming back with a big smile. Namaste to you. Let us begin today's session. Tomorrow is your last session for this month, right? So we have reached the end of our philosophy course as well. And today our topic of discussion is the fourth school of yoga, which is Raj Yoga. And today we are starting with the topic of Raj Yoga. Raj literally means royal, R-A-J-A. This word literally means royal or even king. Here we say Raja, right? So this is the highest path of all, as the name suggests. This is the royal path, right? So I told you Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga can be very easily practiced by anyone. Gyan Yogi is little bit like at in the sense more developed, right? So Gyan Yoga is also something which you can do, but it requires a lot of development of mental strength already on your part in order to pursue that direction when you are moving towards your final goal. And then comes Raj Yoga. So Raj Yoga is the yoga that all other yogas are leading to. Eventually, one reaches the practices of Raj Yoga, right? Because Raj Yoga emphasizes on the importance of the mind, and it uses the mind as a medium to reach the final goal. It says that the mind, if it is scattered, right, it's like it is scattered, all the energy will run in different direction, and you will never be able to see what you want to see. So the mind has the ability to see what you actually want to see. It is a tool, right? And most of us don't know how to use this tool, right? So Raj Yoga tells you how you can utilize the mind to see what you want to see. So it concentrates the energy in one direction or one line, right? So that you can observe the thing that you want to observe. It's like a torch, right? So when you switch on a torch in a dark room, then wherever the torch is throwing the light, you will be able to see that thing very clearly, right? And if you turn on the normal light, the entire room is going to get uh, light, but maybe some things are not very properly visible. But when you throw light in a particular direction, wanting to see a particular thing, then it is very clearly seen. So Raj Yoga is something like that, where when the energy of the mind goes in different directions, right, it isn't able to exactly see what it wants to see. Rajयोग focuses the entire attention on the main thing that you are trying to achieve or you are trying to see, right? So all the practices you will see, Hatha Yoga, your Bhakti, Karma Yoga, all of these, their final point is actually Raj Yoga only, right? And in them, Raj Yoga comes in different ways. Like in Gyan Yoga, we saw that meditation is a part, right? So Raj Yoga, because it has such a strong belief of the power of the mind, right? And it really believes if you can concentrate the mind, you will be able to reach a final goal. So in that same way, it shows up in Gyan Yoga also, where meditation is coming in. So main focus of Raj Yoga is on meditation only, actually, right? And it is very difficult to just begin with meditation or meditative practices, right? Hence, it is an advanced level practice. So practitioner has to prepare themselves in advance for this practice, for stepping into this practice, right? So some people, because of past merits that they accumulate, they are born Rajyogi. So they're immediately able to go into the depth of the meditation and go really ahead in their journey, right? But other people, they require more time and effort, right? So when Patanjali ji, so the Patanjali Yoga Sutra is the main text of Raj Yoga, right? So when you read in Patanjali's text also, you will see over there when he begins the text, uh, when he says Athayog Anushasanam, he means that now is the time for the instructions of yoga or the discipline of yoga. And in this statement itself, you will find certain interpretations which are actually saying that you are already now when you are established in Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So some purification has already taken place. So now you are ready to gain those instructions. And even it is very difficult to begin with just Yama and Niyama because it's very hard to stick to them. And all the Rajyogic practices, in fact, believe in the believe in sticking to the yamas and niyamas. So if you just a second, just a moment. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, when you go to Buddhist practices also, you will see the shield. There are shield over there. When you go for Vipassana course also, if you have ever gone for a Vipassana course or are planning to, you will see first they ask you to follow the shield. And then they say that now you can go into practice. So they say that throughout these 10 days, you have to follow these shield. Shield are also like yamas and yamas only, right? So even a beginner level Raj Yogi requires very high willpower because the yamas and yamas they're not that easy to stick to, right? And they have to come very naturally also. So uh, it isn't like I'm forcing myself to tell the truth all the time, or I'm forcing myself to, um, an attitude of non-possessiveness. No, it has to come very, very naturally. So when we go to the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there are, I told you, three level of students. One is beginner. For beginner, we have Ashtanga Yoga, right? The 8 limbs of yoga, right? Then we have intermediate level student for whom we have Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga also, we have discussed the Tap Swadhyaya and Ishwar Pranidhan. We have discussed this thing in previous classes also, right? An advanced level student is for advanced level student, we have Abhyas and Vairagya. This also, I think we have discussed in depth. Right. So, all right, Abhyas and Vairagya, Abhyasa, Abhyas and Varigy. So this is advanced level student practice, right? So Patanjali ji, when he starts his text, he gives the definition of yoga and then he talks of the 5 vrittis. I told you about the 5 vrittis and I said we are going to discuss these in detail in the upcoming classes. So now we will discuss the 5 vrittis in detail and then we'll go into depth when it comes to Ashtanga Yoga, right? So Patanjali has mentioned 5 vrittis or the fluctuations, VRITTIS. Pramana, Viparya, Vikalpa, Nidra, and Smriti. These are the 5 vrittis, right? It's 5 types of mental fluctuations, and your mental fluctuations, whatever mental fluctuations you have throughout the day, they are going to fall in in these 5 categories only, right? So Praman is right knowledge. We have discussed this before also. Praman, Praman. Viparya, Viprya. And we have Vikalp, Vikalpa, Nidra, Nidra, and Smriti, Smriti, right? So these are the 5 vrittis that he has talked of, or the 5 forms in which the mental fluctuations show up, right? So when you look at the first one, Praman, he said it is right knowledge, right? So when you receive the right knowledge, once again, there is some impression that is being formed on the chitta and it is leading to some fluctuation, right? So suppose you are receiving the right knowledge and then you think about it, right? So it goes on in a, you have a thought loop, right, about the right knowledge also, like we discuss in philosophy class certain things. So you are gaining the correct knowledge, okay, this is the reality, this is the truth, but again your mind is again and again going in the circular form on that information that you get. So that information is also causing you disturbance, and sometimes it happens, it actually causes you disturbance. So if we discuss something in the class and you don't agree with it, or you it's very hard to digest that truth, so you struggle with it, right? So again, it is causing, even the right knowledge causes some fluctuation in your mental field, and that is why he included right knowledge in a form of vritti, right? Because whenever we acquire some information, be it right, wrong, it is there, not there, any kind of information that we acquire, it causes a fluctuation in your mental field, right? So he said, what is the correct source of the right knowledge, right? So he has said that these three, he has mentioned 3 things, and he has said that these 3 are the correct information if you are perceiving the information in these 3 forms. Apart from this, all the knowledge will either come under false knowledge or imagination, right? So प्रत्यक्ष अनुमान आगम, PRATYKSHA, प्रत्यक्ष अनुमान, ANUMANA, अनुमान, and agam, AGAM, right? So he said, if these 3 are the sources of your right knowledge, then it is right knowledge. If it is not, then all other knowledge will fall under some other category. So first thing he said was pratyaksh. Pratyaksh is your direct experience. Suppose this phone is in front of me, right? And I can see it, my eyes can see it, right? And I know that this object is there, right in front of me, it is there, right? So my senses, whatever I perceive through my senses, right, it is there. So it is the right knowledge. Suppose the table is there, right? So table is actually present in front of me, I can see it. And food is there, you can see it, you can smell it, you know. So if you see a bird flying by, you can hear that bird, you can see that bird, right? So whatever you're perceiving through your senses directly, he said that that will fall under the right information, the right knowledge, correct? So then he said, but all the time your senses cannot be correct, right? Because sometimes, you know what happens, you are in a desert, you would have heard of this happening with a lot of people, and they feel so thirsty that they actually start seeing water somewhere in the distance in a desert. It's called a mirage, right? So sometimes, you know, he said that sometimes your senses can also fool you, right? So he says, what is the second source of your correct knowledge? So he gave few sources, right? So one is you are directly experiencing something. If an insect bites you, you know, you are able to feel that, you know, itching feeling, that burning sensation, right? So one thing is that. Second thing, if your senses are sometimes deceiving you, it is possible. So in that case, you rely on the second source, which is your inference, अनुमान. अनुमान लगाना, जैसे हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं अनुमान लगाते हैं हम लोग, right? So suppose there is like clouds out there, right, and rainy weather is it's a time and they are black clouds. So I can infer from all of this that eventually it is going to rain, right? Or maybe something like happens around me, that the circumstances are formed in such a way that I can infer that this thing is going to happen along with this thing, right? So when the exact thing, we cannot see the exact thing happening, but we are able to infer because of good logical reasoning, right? So there is proper logic behind it, that okay, it is science that water evaporates and eventually it's going to pour down, and we are able to get a hang of how the weather is. Suppose it starts thundering right just before the rain, it thunders a few times, right? Badal garajte hain, है ना? So in that way I can infer that it is going to rain, right? I have proper logic and reasoning to infer this thing, right? And this is going to be my second source when I cannot directly perceive something, but I can infer out of all the circumstances that are around me. I can infer that something is going to happen. That is when this becomes my second source of right knowledge, but the logic has to be really correct behind it. So you will see that in the jungle, when the lion is about to come, so all the animals, they will make a lot of noise as a indicator to the all the other animals that the uh, lion is out for the hunting, right? So when you hear all of those sounds, you are in the jungle, and when you hear so many sounds of all the animals around them, so from one animal to the other, all of them start making noise, right? As an alert to each other, right? So then you can infer that the tiger will be around me somewhere, right? Or the lion will be around here somewhere, because they make that noise as an indicator. So you know that certain things are there, and you have the correct logic behind it, that if this is happening, then this is bound to happen. So that comes under your anuman. And last one is your agam, right? So when you cannot perceive something through the senses, and nor can you infer anything, right? Sometimes there are certain things, especially when you come to a lot of spiritual practices. That is why guru is given a lot of relevance, right? So agam means testimony, right? So then you rely on the testimony of someone else that this is going to happen. And this you will see mostly occur in the spiritual side, right? When you are spiritually advancing on your path, right? And there are some experiences that you are not aware of, or you do not know where you are headed, the guru will give you some checkpoints that if you reach over here, okay, like somebody, when they give us that direction, they just say from that shop turn right, then from that shop turn left, and that is where this location is going to be. So in that same way, the testimony of a guru, when you do not, when you are in a spiritual practice, you are on your way to some place, right? And the instructions of the guru help you over there, because you possibly cannot experience that thing at that particular point of time, but it helps you to comprehend where you are and where you have to reach, right? So when it comes to testimony, again, be very careful. There would be a lot of people out there giving various types of testimonies, right? So it is very important to find the right guru, right? So find a proper guru who can guide you on your way, rather than, in testimony, it is quite probable that you might even lose your way, right? So you need to pick and choose the correct guru for your spiritual journey, who can help you to move ahead, to move forward, right? And guru is someone who knows more than you. It doesn't mean they have reached the final goal, but somebody who definitely knows more than you, has practiced more than you, and can transmit the knowledge as it is, right? So sometimes what we do is we transmit the knowledge with a lot of other spices added, right? जैसे दूध में मिलावट हो जाती है, in milk you will see, the basic essence of the milk remains, but there's a mixture of all other chemicals and water and everything, right? So when you choose the guru, just make sure that all of these things are not there, right? Because sometimes the guru, the person you are looking up to, might mix a lot of other information with the main information, and the main thing is then lost. And this has been seen time and time again, right? That the main essence of the practice is being lost because we are not able to propagate it correctly. So when you see in Siddhartha Gautam's time also, Vipassana existed, and after 500 years, there was no Vipassana because the way in which it was transmitted from one generation to another, it was eventually, it lost its sense, and then only Buddhist texts remained, right? So essentially, no guru was there, and this information, even though you can consult a lot of texts, right? It is actually about your experience and how you reach over there. So eventually, only the texts, Buddhist texts remained. Then this whole fight began of Buddhism being there. Then Buddhism also has various schools, right? So people were just interested in, taking out their own set of beliefs and fighting each other on that beliefs. The essence of the practice was lost because nobody was practicing, and even if they weren't practicing as deeply, right? So but some places they were able to still preserve certain practices, right? And then this whole knowledge, it came back, right? So that is how it happens, then when there is space, that kind of knowledge, flourishes. But you will see places where authentic practice is passed down, the main guru is only passing it down either through audios or videos, or if they are not there anymore, through audios and videos. That is how the transmission of knowledge takes place. Because if they overstep, if anybody who is coming in as a future teacher oversteps that boundary, then the essence is going to get lost. So when you go for agam, just make sure you are choosing the right person for yourself who can actually guide you, right, on your spiritual journey. Because if I don't know of anything, then anybody will make a fool out of me, right? If we don't know something about, something you are going to buy and you have no background or idea about it, then anybody, any shopkeeper will fool you, right? So it's something like that. You will be fooled very easily. So be careful, right? So these are the three sources through which you can know that the knowledge is correct, right? So let me finish the five ritis, then I will ask you if you have any doubts. Okay. So next one we have the viparya, right? Viparya is the false knowledge. Okay, false knowledge. So false knowledge, when it comes to this, earlier our object was real and we were able to perceive the right knowledge. Now the object becomes false. Now, how does the object become false? Right? So suppose, very common example of this is, suppose I'm, in rainy season, there are a lot of snakes over here, right? So when the snakes are over here, then we become afraid, right? Who is not afraid of snakes? Everybody is, right? So there are a lot of snakes around here, right? So in the night, because I already know that there are a lot of snakes, there is some fear factor that is within me already, right? So in the night, if I'm walking back, or suppose I'm in my room, but I know there is this small passage from where anything can enter, right, in my room. So I go to sleep, right? I go to sleep, and in my room, I have a skipping rope also. Okay. Hypothetically, let's take this example. So I know there is a space in my room, or maybe from under my door, I know there is some space that is there from which anything can enter, right, in my room. And then at the same time, I have a skipping rope in my room, right? And that day somehow I was very tired, so I left that skipping rope lying here and there, and when I entered my room, I just came and I went to sleep. Now, in the middle of the night, I hear something. Okay, so I wake up, right? And it is completely dark in my room, but little bit, our eyes also learn how to adjust, and the, bulb outside my room that was also on. So a little bit light was seeping into my room, right? And when I woke up to that sound, I immediately saw that rope, right? And I thought it was the snake, and I jumped, right? And I was so afraid, right? Because mind has some notion, and then the mind saw something exactly like that, and immediately jumped to the conclusion that it is a snake. But it was actually my skipping rope only that I had left over there, right? So my awareness was zero, right? And my fear was too much. And even though it sounds funny, it happens with a lot of us. When we are afraid of something and then we see something from the corner of our eye, we immediately jump. And it's actually not that thing or not that situation, right? But we immediately jump back, afraid, right? And this is the false knowledge, because something completely different is present over there, but you are perceiving it to be something else, right? And it is a source of false knowledge, right? Because you are in so much ignorance. So it is considered that, let me connect this to Gyan Yoga. So, like in Gyan Yoga, I told you avidya, right? That ignorance is the root cause. Over here also, ignorance is going on. Ignorance is going on because, again, I'm not able to see the object as it is for what it is, right? And all of that darkness represents the ignorance. If I put some light on in that room, I will be able to see the object for what it is, right? So that light is considered to be vivek, or your discrimination. So as you walk on your yoga journey, you will develop this discrimination, and this false knowledge will begin to go away. Now you earlier you believed something else, and now you are seeing completely opposite thing is true. Why? Because when you come into practice of yoga, you start seeing some realities of life, and then you see you have been taught something completely different, and you question your reality. That is what people call an existential crisis also. A lot of people go through it, right? Because from beginning we have been taught something else, right? And then when you throw little bit light on it, you are able to see what is, right? And you guys also, as the classes would have progressed, you might have questioned certain things about your own self, be it only the way in which you are living, right? So this discrimination is going to help you in order to come out of this false knowledge and move towards the right knowledge, right? Then the third one we have, that is vikalp. Vikalp or imagination. The English for this is imagination. So human mind, nothing like the human mind, right? Um, we are really good at imagining things. So many novels, so many books, they exist out there these days, totally based on things which do not exist. Fiction books, right? That is the category I'm talking about, right? And mind is so fast. If I ask you to think of something which does not exist, you will immediately be able to think of, right? If I say unicorn, you have that image in your head. You know what that is. But I have never met a unicorn, you have never met a unicorn, right? So imagination is that. It's that aspect of the human mind which has no basis in reality. So first time we had real object, then we had false object, right? In Viparya, we had false object, and then now we have no object altogether. So imagination, Patanjali ji said, is something which has no basis in reality. Yeah, like Harry Potter, right? We all love Harry Potter. We all have at least heard of it or seen the movies, or if you are a very big fan, you have read the books, right? So Harry Potter is one of the biggest examples because it got so famous, and everybody has at least heard of Harry Potter, right? So this entire thing, she was sitting on a train and she had an idea, right? And then she wrote about it. And it got so famous, so famous that everybody in the world now knows this name, right? So, and completely based on imagination, as much as we would love to have magic in that form around us or have Hogwarts somewhere hidden in this world, it has no real basis, right? So, imagination is that portion of the mind which has no real basis, but still it is causing a disturbance in your mental field. So, the thing about vrittis is that it is a fluctuation. It is a mental modification or an impression that is being formed. Now, when you read Harry Potter, when you saw Harry Potter, or any of the fictional novels, you will see they have no real basis, or even if they do, the story has no real basis, right? Even if you know some places are real, they actually exist. There are no real basis. Like there is no real basis for the story that is told, right? So this also causes a fluctuation in your in your mental field. You will think about it. You will we connect a lot with a lot of characters also when we read such things. So it's again and again causing some mental fluctuation. Then if we come to the next one, is Nidra. Yeah. So Nidra. So first three are mostly working on your conscious mind, right? If I am in a conscious state of mind, then I can either perceive the right information, the wrong information, or I can imagine, I can daydream, right? Sitting in my class, I can just daydream that happened, then this will happen, then that will happen. So mind is very sharp in that sense, right? But now, when Patanjali mentioned the fourth vritti, he went into a deeper state of mind, right? Now, when you go to sleep, you would have never thought that sleep is also a vritti. But when you go to sleep, again there is some mental modification that is taking place, right? So sleep state is also a mental modification state that is taking place. When you go to sleep, you have dreams, right? You dream about something, and the basis of the dreams are your external world only. So you are thinking about the external world only. When you dream, maybe you are in that exact place where you want to be, right? Or you are sitting in your home, but something different is going on, something different is happening. Maybe you are interacting with the people that you know, but something different is going on in the dream, right? So this state of the mind, which is introverted, right? It is cut off from all the senses. So it is introverted at that point of time, but still it is going into this fluctuation where it is constantly it is acting and reacting to the reality that you perceived through your senses. That state he called Nidra. So when you go to sleep, again, you go into a deeper, you tap into a deeper state of your mind. It is not the conscious level anymore, but there is constant action and reaction. That is why when I talked of karma yoga, I said karma yoga is not only at the action level, right? In that way, the karma yogi, when they are sleeping, they would cease to exist, because I told you again, Lord Krishna, he mentioned this thing: if we are alive, karma is going on at each and every point, right? So when you guys go to sleep also, some karma, some reaction is going on at that point of time as well. You can be aware of it or you cannot be aware. That is completely different matter, right? But some reactiveness is still going on, and that one Patanjali called Nidra, the fourth vritti, right? And let's just discuss the fifth one. Then if there are any doubts, I'll take your doubts. Okay. So fifth one is your um, smriti. Yeah, smriti or memory, right? So we directly translate this to memory, right? So smriti or memory. Now, sometimes you encounter something or some experience happens and it slips your mind, right? And then other instance, something happens and it stays in your mind, right? So when it stays in the mind, when the mind is not letting go, your mental field is not letting go of the experience that you have gone through, that thing is called memory, right? Sometimes we can remember certain things. If I push you too much to think about that particular day or date or something like that, right? You guys will be able to eventually remember it. Why? Because it is stored in your memory, right? And in that same way, sometimes, we have these friends who forget everything, right? They keep reminding them that happened, you don't remember, this happened, then this happened, then we, got there, and then this happened. And you are telling them the whole incident. You remember it so clearly, and that friend is like totally lost, right? They do not remember. So for them, that experience, it escaped their mind, right? And this is what we call a vritti, because each and every time you remember that memory also, or in order to keep that memory also, there is some fluctuation that is again and again being caused in your mental field. When you guys remember something, right, you feel that thing, right? Especially if you remember something very, very pleasant that happened with you, right? Immediately you begin to smile, you feel so good, you miss that place maybe, right? So you immediately, because it is so deeply held in your subconscious mind holds these kind of memories, right? So it's so deeply held in that state of your mind that you are, when you remember it, you feel that thing, right? So again, it is causing some disturbance, some impression it has formed on you, which you are unable to let go of. So it remains as a part of your memory, right? And Smriti, he said, is the fifth vritti. So during your day, now you guys know deeply what vrittis are. So during your day, observe. Whenever you are thinking of something or doing something, it is a part of either of these vrittis, right? So all the knowledge that you are perceiving, it can only be categorized in these three categories. As per Patanjali, there are only five vrittis. And then when you're going to sleep, it's Nidra. If you are reminiscing about some old moments sitting with your friends, it is Smriti, right? The fluctuation that is being caused. The earlier you start to become aware of these vrittis, the more you know how much vrittis are a part of your own life, right? It's not a book kind of concept where Patanjali was just like, okay, let's categorize and then we'll see. No, it is a part of your life. And when you realize how deeply it is a part of your life, that is when you realize you have to work on this only, right? Yoga is not something which is apart from you or apart from the experiences that you are having. It is showing up in your day-to-day life. Each and every fluctuation is showing up in your day-to-day life. And these are the fluctuations you have to come out of, right? These are the things or the reactiveness of the mind that you have to consistently work on. So next time you are doing asana, be aware you are working towards this thing. You are doing pranayama, be aware this is the work you are putting towards these kind of fluctuations. You want to be free from that state of mind where the fluctuations or impressions are again and again being formed on your mental field, right? So are there any doubts related to vrittis? Anything?
So is it like, Raja Yoga, by doing all this, stopping all these fluctuations, we can achieve Raja Yoga?
So the main goal of Raj Yoga is liberation from all your suffering, right? The final
Okay.
stage that you are aiming for. So through these practices, you can work on purification. So everything before that point, so yoga, when I described it, is that point of state of mind where there are no fluctuations, right? So before that, all the effort you're putting in, that is a process only, right? That is not yoga. That is the process of yoga. But yoga is that state of mind when you are balanced, when you have skillfulness in your action, when your mental field is free from all the fluctuations.
As long as we live in the in the environment where there are like lots of things going on, then our mind will normally be fluctuating anyways, isn't it?
Yes, so that is true that the fluctuation is going to take place, but to what extent, that you begin to understand when you practice or go through the process of yoga, right? And see, in most places it has been said that for final goal you have to live for that particular moment, right? You have to leave the world behind. But like Siddharth Gautam also, like if you read his story, he left his home and eventually even he secluded himself from his 5 friends he was practicing with, right? So he eventually even went into seclusion from them, and then he, attained the final goal. But once he did, he again came back, and then he passed down vipassana to so many people, right? So in order to just achieve that final leg, right, final goal, in the end only the yogi isolates, right? But yogi also comes back to pass down that information, right? So existing in this world, it is possible that you are going in a non-reactive state of mind. Right now we are too much like in that state of reaction. We will immediately react, something happens and immediate reaction comes out because we have trained ourselves in that way. So when you go through the purification process, the practices of yoga, you begin to move towards little bit non-reactiveness, right?
Okay.
So that stage is very high level, but you can practice karma yoga, you can practice bhakti yoga. A lot of people do, and they find a lot of improvement in their way of living, because it's not something apart from what you are doing. It is just changing the intention and the way of doing what you are doing. That is exactly what a yogi also does. So I'm again and again doing the same thing, but now my intention has completely changed behind that thing. And as you go deeper, you will see your intention will change behind things. So, in case of food, also, like we discussed earlier, you were cooking food just like that. But when you had that class on food, maybe you are adding more intention to your food, more emotions to your food. So, it's not like you stopped cooking the food, right? You have to. But your whole intention behind it begins to change and turn. That is what you are in.
Okay.
Any other doubts from Vrittis or anything? All right, great. Great. So tomorrow we will talk about Ashtanga Yoga. Right. Let's just write down all the 8 limbs so that tomorrow we will not, because tomorrow it's our last class. So let's just write down the names so that tomorrow we don't have to put in time into this thing. So first is Yama, so Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Tomorrow we will discuss on these things. Yama, Yama, Niyama, Niyama, Asana, Asana, Pranayam, Prana, Yama. Sorry. Pratyahar, Praty, 𝐴HARA. Dharana, DHARNA. Dhyana, DHYANA. And last is your Samadhi, SAMADHI, Samadhi. Tomorrow we will discuss this Ashtanga Yoga and finish our syllabus, right? So let's meet for your pranayam class in the evening, right? Afternoon. Let's close today's session, right? So just sit comfortably on your mat. We'll just chant Om one time, followed by 3 shantis. Keep the back and neck straight. Close the eyes. Inhale deeply for Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And the palms together, bow down. And our day with a sense of gratitude. Rub the palms together. Keep them on the eyes. Very slowly while blinking and looking at the palms. Open up your eyes, start coming back with a smile. Okay.
Thank you.
Om Shanti. I will see you all for
Shanti,
practice.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.